My sons dumped me in a nursing home, but when they came back, I owned their lives. The signature wasn't hesitation. It was betrayal, written in blue ink. "Mom, it's for your own good," Marcus said, then handed the pen to the nurse like he was donating a burden. The door behind them clicked shut, and that soft sound hurt more than any scream could. I sat in the wheelchair they insisted on, though my legs worked just fine, hands folded like a woman attending her own funeral. For a moment, I waited, like mothers do. Maybe they'd realize. Maybe they'd remember. But Evan was already joking with the receptionist, laughing like abandonment was a family tradition. That's when I knew. This wasn't care. This was disposal. A nurse asked if I needed help. "No," I whispered. I already helped them too much. I checked my phone. One new notification. Transfer request approved. My private account, the one they didn't know existed. I smiled. Slow. Because here's the part they didn't calculate. The trust fund is still in my name. The house they live in is still in my name. And every signature they just made won't change any of that. They dumped me here to disappear quietly. But I don't fade. I sharpen. By the time they come running back for the money, the home, the comfort, I'll already own their future the way they thought they owned mine. Sometimes removal is the beginning of power. Stay till the end, they did. And it destroyed them. They gave me a room far from the lobby, far from the front door, far from escape, room 27C. Smells like bleach and lost hope. The walls were painted a calm beige, the color of a tranquil prison. Nurse Sharon placed my suitcase on the bed. She smiled like she rehearsed it. "We'll take good care of you, Mrs. Carter." I've taken good care of myself for 71 years, I thought, and 2 ungrateful sons. But I nodded, polite. Power always starts quietly. My purse rested in my lap, heavy with secrets. My phone, my banking token, my original trust documents, my will, still unsigned by anyone but me, all of it neatly tucked away in a floral bag they thought held only tissues and mints. "Would you like a tour?" Sharon asked. "A tour of my captivity? Adorable." "Of course," I said, because knowing the terrain is the first rule of survival. We walked slow. I counted every exit. The dining hall was filled with old souls pushing peas around plates, people whose families visited on holidays if guilt was high and football wasn't on. I saw a woman staring out a window, rocking gently as though keeping time with memories fading too fast. Sharon whispered, "Some residents prefer the view, even when it never changes." Oh, darling, I thought. I'm here to change everything. The recreation room had puzzles missing pieces and a TV always showing yesterday's news. A volunteer tried to teach a man bingo, but he kept asking for his wife. Loss echoes loudly in places like this. We passed a bulletin board of events, movie night, card club, chair yoga, a schedule meant to keep minds occupied and controlled. Then I noticed something that didn't match. A locked door labeled Administration Authorized Only. I felt a thrum of electricity beneath my ribs. Authorized only. I have been authorizing my entire family's life for decades. I smiled at the sign. It would regret introducing itself to me. Back in my room, I dialed Marcus, straight to voicemail. Typical. He avoids things with feelings attached. Evan answered with a sigh buried in politeness. "Hey, Mom, how's everything?" "Oh, lovely," I said, sugar like arsenic. "Tell your wife thank you for the flowers." There were no flowers, but silence is a spectacular truth serum. "Oh, yeah, she said she ordered them." "She's always forgetting things," I said gently, "and I remember everything." His breathing changed. "Good. We'll visit soon," he added. "Yes," I replied. "You will." I hung up. Didn't need more. He had heard the warning he didn't realize I was giving. There's a particular sensation when children think they've buried you alive, and you're still breathing. Calm tastes different, sharper, like something with teeth. That's when I noticed my neighbor across the hall. A woman with silver curls and eyes that saw too much. "You're new," she said, leaning in my doorway. Her voice had humor and bruises in equal measure. "Yes, May Carter." "Everyone calls me Gloria," she replied. "They put me here after my daughter married a man who believes power is inherited through checks, not blood." I smiled. We understood each other without exchanging details. She stepped closer. "You're not like the others. You're not broken yet." "Not even cracked," I said. Her grin was small but victorious. "You'll fit right in." Later, the dinner bell rang. Nurse Sharon came to wheel me down. I stood up on my own. Her surprise was almost flattering. "If you need assistance—" "I need a tray," I interrupted, "and a seat near the window. I like to keep an eye on the world." During dinner, I listened. People talk when they think no one is listening. "Her sons left her and never looked back. They only want the inheritance. She'll be gone before the paperwork clears." I bit into a dry roll and swallowed their assumptions whole. Let them think I'm fading. Let them underestimate me. It's easier to move in shadows when everyone believes you're already gone. When I returned to my room, I sat at the small desk, pulled out my phone, and opened a secure banking app my sons didn't know existed. 3 accounts, 7 figures, every cent mine. One message from my lawyer: "Call when safe." Oh, I was safe. They weren't. I looked at the ceiling. The light flickered, as though the room already sensed the storm thawing beneath me. My sons thought they put me away. What they really did was give me the time to plan. I folded my hands the same way I did when they were boys praying over dinner, except this time the prayer was different. I won't let them bury me. I'm going to rebirth myself and bury them instead. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in years. Revenge is a comfortable pillow. The first sign something was wrong with their plan came quicker than they expected. 2 days passed. No visits, no calls, not even a text message with fake love attached. But the facility director suddenly became very interested in me. A stiff man, hair parted like a ruler, designed it. His name tag, Mr. Sanders, administrator. He knocked once and entered like he owned the air. "Mrs. Carter, may I speak with you privately?" I smiled. "You just did." He cleared his throat. "People who love power hate being challenged by soft voices. We've been contacted by your sons." "How thoughtful," I said. "Tell them I'm alive." He forced a laugh. "I'm sure they're just checking in. They mentioned concerns about your finances." Ah, there it was. The first fracture. "They asked whether you require a financial guardian," he continued. My fingers stilled on the armrest. Controlled stillness is more threatening than anger. "Why would I need that?" I asked. "Well, people your age—" "Finish that sentence carefully," I interrupted. He looked down at his clipboard like it contained courage. "They believe you may be vulnerable." "That's funny," I said, "because they're the vulnerable ones. They just haven't felt it yet." His pen trembled. He tried to hide the shake. Failed. "If there's any cognitive concern," he said slowly, "we can assess you." Assess me, like a cracked floorboard, like a product past its expiration. I rose, smooth, steady. His eyes widened. "Wheelchair my foot." I stepped forward until my breath brushed his shirt collar. "Tell them," I whispered, "that I passed every test before they were born." He left without another word, and I watched his shoulders tense all the way down the hallway. Later, during lunch, Gloria leaned across the table. "They're already circling, aren't they?" Her tone, tasting of a woman who survived her own wolves. "They want control," I said, "but control isn't inherited. It's seized." She chuckled. "I like you." As evening rolled in, a staff member named Connor approached with caution. "So, May, heard Mr. Sanders had a talk with you." Gossip travels faster in nursing homes than time does. "He thinks I'm fragile," I said. Connor raised a brow. "You don't seem fragile." "I'm not." I sipped water. He's just not used to strength wrapped in wrinkles. His laugh was genuine, rare here. "Anything you need?" he asked. "Yes." I tapped the table gently. A list of the facility's board members. He blinked, then smiled like he discovered a lioness in his living room. "I'll see what I can do." That's when I started watching who came, who lingered, who whispered by the vending machine thinking my hearing was also old, because betrayal never begins big. It starts in tiny whispers. In paperwork requests, in the way people look at your hands, not with love, but with calculation. My sons wanted proof of my weakness. They were about to get proof of exactly what I am. A mother who refuses to be erased, and fracture by fracture their plan began to crack. Care is a strange thing. Once you stop giving it, you see everything differently. On the fourth evening, they called, not to ask how I was, not to say they missed me. "Mom," Marcus began, voice firm like a business deal, "we spoke to the facility. They say you seem stressed." I stirred my tea, slow. "Peppermint, not chamomile. I asked for chamomile." "Stress," I replied calmly, "usually follows betrayal." A silence spread like spilled ink. "We're just trying to help," Evan inserted, too eager, too rehearsed. The kind of voice that fears losing something valuable. "You already helped," I said. "You freed me from expectations." My words traveled through the phone line like thin needles. I didn't shout, I didn't cry, I didn't ask why. That's how they expected me to react, small and desperate. But desperation died the moment the papers signed. Emotional distance is a mother's final weapon. After the call, I folded my clothes with military precision, every crease sharp enough to cut denial. Across the hall, Gloria watched. "You're shutting the doors," she said quietly. "No," I corrected. "I'm learning which doors I should never have opened." She nodded, understanding the kind of pain that makes a woman choose steel over softness. During breakfast, I noticed something. Residents who still believed in visits sat closer to the entrance, as if proximity summoned love. I chose the far corner, because I no longer waited for footsteps I couldn't trust. Connor sat beside me, no clipboard, a rare sign of genuine care. "You're different this week," he said. "I stopped being a mother," I answered, "and started being a woman." He didn't respond. He didn't need to. Some truths echo all on their own. The staff watched me now, not with pity, with respect tinted by fear, because a woman without attachments is unpredictable, and a mother who turns her love inward is unstoppable. I took another sip, still peppermint. "I'll get my own tea from now on," I said, already standing. Independence can be loud even without a sound. As I passed the lobby, I overheard a resident whisper, "She walks like she has somewhere better to be." They were right. I was walking toward a reckoning. The distance between me and my sons wasn't abandonment anymore. It was strategy. A woman who no longer aches is a woman who no longer asks. And I had stopped asking the moment they drove away. It happened on a quiet Tuesday, the kind of day that pretends to be harmless. Mr. Sanders knocked, without waiting, holding a file like a weapon. "Mrs. Carter, we need to discuss an urgent matter." Urgent. That word wears many masks. I sat, hands folded, a portrait of patience sharpened to a blade. He laid the folder on the table between us with theatrical caution. "A request has been submitted." He paused, as though suspense might change my memory, "for temporary guardianship over your estate." My heart didn't race. It measured. "And who requested that?" I asked, already knowing the answer. He swallowed. "Your sons." I nodded once. "That makes sense," I said. "They're very worried about loving their mother." His face twitched. "A man caught between ethics and convenience. They've expressed concern about your decision-making capacity." Capacity. Funny word. I once carried both of them at the same time, one on each hip. That's capacity. "And what evidence have they provided?" I asked. He hesitated, pulled out a sheet of paper covered in handwriting I recognized. Marcus's wife. She always misspelled the word responsible. It read, "May has been confused. She forgets simple things. We fear dementia is starting. Lie, lie, lie." Each sentence, a small knife. Together, a stabbing. I let the silence deepen until it felt heavy enough to break the table. Then I smiled. "Lovely," I said. "I'd like to give you something too." I pulled a thick envelope from my purse, slid it across the table slowly. Inside, the updated trust documents signed, witnessed, filed, and the final page. A fresh statement from my longtime physician. Patient cognitive function. Excellent, no concerns of impairment. Sanders read it. His eyes widened, color drained. "And one more thing," I added. I opened the banking app on my phone, typed one command, and showed him the screen. Funds transfer completed. All accounts now secured under dual key authorization. Translation, they couldn't touch a cent without me. "You see," I said softly, "they planned a theft. I planned a prevention." He looked at me with something new. Respect mixed with fear. "Would you like me to contact your sons?" he asked. "No." I stood, slow, elegant. "I want them to come running, and then I want to decide whether I open the door." He nodded. We understood each other perfectly now. I walked back to my room, heels tapping a message down the hallway. Mother. Not victim. Never prey. Later that evening, Connor approached with gentle curiosity. Heard there was a situation. I sipped chamomile, finally. "My children think I'm losing my mind," I said. "And are you?" he asked, teasing lightly. I smiled, a cold sunrise. "Oh no, dear. I'm just losing my patience." In the courtyard, the wind carried laughter from a far table. Someone still believed their family would show up, not me. I no longer waited for love from those who weaponized it. As the sky shifted purple, I pulled out my phone once more, drafted a text to Marcus and Evan. "Heard from the administrator. Do visit soon. We have a lot to discuss." No emojis, threats don't smile. I hit send, and in that moment, beneath the soft patio light, I made my vow. They think they locked me away, but I am the storm inside their walls, and I'm coming for everything they tried to steal. That night, I slept with the trust documents under my pillow, not out of fear, but possession. They wanted my mind, my money, my life. They would learn exactly what a mother becomes when the children she raised decide they're better off without her. They believed they'd trapped me. But really? They just put me in a place where planning revenge was my only job. The morning after the guardianship attempt, the air in the corridor felt different, like the walls had learned a secret and were waiting to see how I used it. I dressed without help, fixed my hair, and walked to breakfast with a calm that made the nurses straighten instinctively. Power announces itself without raising its voice. At the dining room door, Connor met me with a folded paper. "You didn't get this from me," he said, eyes steady. Inside was the facility's board roster, 3 names circled in pen. I recognized one instantly, Elaine Vickers, a widow whose charity gala I had funded 10 years ago, back when I believed philanthropy was how families wrote their legacy. I thanked him and put the paper away, careful not to smile too widely. A gift is stronger when it looks like a coincidence. Gloria slid into the chair beside me and let her tray clatter like punctuation. "You're collecting keys," she murmured. I didn't deny it. She leaned closer. "Careful with Sanders. He's not greedy, he's proud. Proud men sell quicker because they don't think they're for sale." I filed the sentence under useful truths and sipped the tea I'd finally trained the staff to bring correctly. By mid-morning, my phone pinged with a message from my lawyer, Ruth Delgado. "Your sons filed an emergency hearing for temporary control. We can neutralize it if we move fast." I asked for a call, then paced to the window while it rang. Ruth's voice was brisk, a woman who had escorted more than a few fortunes through storm weather. "May, we'll file a counter, but I need something sharp," she said. A statement, a contradiction, a conflict of interest. I thought of the misspelled affidavit from my daughter-in-law and the confusion she claimed to witness. "I'll get you proof," I answered. "Give me 48 hours. Proof rarely arrives as a confession. It appears in habits. So I started with patterns. I asked Connor which staff rotated on weekends and who handled family check-ins. He blinked. "That would be Brenda," he said. "Why?" I shrugged lightly. "I prefer to know who records my story." He didn't push. People who see you as competent stop asking permission. At lunch, I watched Brenda work the phones. She logged calls with neat, deliberate handwriting, but her eyes kept drifting to the administrator's door. Twice she spoke quietly to Sanders, and both times he came out pretending not to look my way. When she printed a stack of forms and tucked them under a blue folder, I knew what I needed: access without trespass. I waited until she left for a late break, then approached the desk with a comment about a billing duplicate. While she pulled my file on the computer, I leaned just enough to see the screen reflected faintly in the photograph beside it. 2 teenagers at a lake, the glass polishing a second image. On the toolbar, an open tab read, "Family Portal. Carter, M. Notes." The last line caught me. "Guardian inquiry escalated. Visit tentatively scheduled Thursday 2 p.m. So they plan to show up with love and a lawyer. Cute. I thanked Brenda with a practiced smile and returned to my room. On the way, I passed Mr. Sanders talking in the hallway, lowering his voice when I neared. I paused at the water dispenser and listened to the shape of his words more than the words themselves. Nothing actionable, but nerves sound similar in every language. That evening, Connor wheeled a book cart past my door and stopped without looking in. "Elaine Vickers volunteers Wednesday afternoons in the therapy garden," he said, like he'd remembered something ordinary. "Sun hat, loud bracelets." Then he moved on. I caught up with him near the elevator. "Why help me?" I asked. His answer was simple. "My grandmother raised me. Men who forget where they come from shouldn't hold the map." I nodded. A new ally, not a savior, but a steady hand on the edge of the table. Wednesday, the garden smelled like rosemary and damp soil. I found Elaine trimming mint with a pair of cheerful clippers. She looked up, surprised, then pleased. "May Carter," she said, bracelets chiming. "I hear you've joined our little nation." I laughed softly. "Temporarily. The embassy is reviewing my status." She liked that, and we moved to a shaded bench. I reminded her of the scholarship fund we built after her husband died, the way the first class of students wrote letters that made 2 widows feel useful again. Her eyes warmed. Influence, when earned honestly, does not vanish. It waits. I didn't ask for money or favors. I asked for presence. "There's a hearing Friday," I said. "I'd be grateful if someone who knows me would attend." She understood the subtext immediately. Solidity, optics, the quiet weight of a respected name. "I'll be there," she said, "and I'll bring Dr. Chen. He danced with you at the first gala and still calls you unstoppable." My hand rested on hers for a moment longer than polite. "Good," I said. "Let's remind them." Back in the hallway, a woman I barely knew brushed my shoulder and slipped a folded receipt into my palm like a spy. "He told me not to," she whispered, then continued walking. In my room, I unfolded it. A hardware store purchase. Lock cylinders, a keypad unit, adhesive signage, paid by a family account listed under Evan's address. The date matched the week they admitted me, upgrading my house while I was safe here, preparing for a future where I couldn't return without their permission. The rage came clean, a bright flame that warmed rather than burned. "Thank you," I thought. "You just showed me exactly where to pry." I called Ruth. "I can place your sons at the center of a premeditated control plan," I said, and read the receipt line by line. "We'll add it to the filing," she replied. "I want more. something that shows motive beyond concern. I smiled even though she couldn't see it. Motive is easy, I said. They're broke in places rich men never mention. That night, I tested the staff by requesting my own copy of the visitor log. We can't release that, Sanders said, crisp as cardboard. Privacy. I nodded. I expected the refusal. 40 minutes later, Brenda left the log on the edge of the front desk while she fetched a delivery. Connor drifted by with the book cart and knocked the log slightly askew, exposing a page margin where she had scribbled reminders. One note read, Thursday, M&E plus agent, not lawyer. Agent, insurance, real estate. I felt a click behind my ribs. If they were bringing an agent, they were moving to liquidate something, either my possessions or the house. And you don't liquidate what you don't expect to own. I spent the next morning in the common room, harmless as a grandmother doing a crossword, while I compiled a quiet list. The locksmith's invoice from the receipt, security camera coverage mentioned in the garden schedule, and the name of the HOA president, Mrs. Leary, who wrote me Christmas letters about pet policies and azalea pruning. I called her under the pretext of checking on the neighborhood, and she spilled 3 useful facts with the speed of a woman grateful for company. A realtor car had driven by twice. My mailbox key had been temporarily misplaced and then found in Marcus's glove compartment. And the HOA had received an inquiry about transfer of owner responsibilities. She apologized for bothering me. I told her she'd just given me peace of mind. By afternoon, I had what I needed for a small detonation. I met Gloria in the lounge and told her only a slice. She looked at my hands. They're steady, she said. Good. Steady hands don't miss arteries. I laughed, and it sounded like confidence finally had room to breathe. At 2 o'clock, I asked Connor to book the private family room for Thursday, the same time listed on Brenda's note. He raised an eyebrow but made the reservation. I texted Marcus and Evan. I'll meet you in the family room tomorrow at 2. Bring whoever you plan to bring. I'll bring who I need. No threats, no pleading, just a meeting invitation written like a verdict. That evening, I stood by the window and watched the parking lot lights turn the asphalt into a dim mirror. Somewhere out there, my sons rehearsed their lines about love and safety, while an agent printed forms with boxes for me to vanish into. I placed the updated trust copy into my handbag, tucked the physician's letter beside it, and slipped the board roster behind both. Then I added the hardware receipt, a small, ugly thing that could split a mountain if placed correctly. When I turned off the lamp, the room felt smaller, but my horizon expanded. I lay in bed with the calm of a woman who has arranged the furniture of a battle so no one trips by accident. Tomorrow, they would walk into a room expecting a mother's surrender. Instead, they would meet the architect of consequences. I closed my eyes and pictured the door handle turning. The soft click that began all of this. Let it click again, I thought. I'm ready. They arrived early. Marcus walked in first, shoulders square, suit jacket crisp enough to slice air. Evan followed like a shadow that wished it were a leader. Behind them was a man in a navy blazer, holding a sleek leather folder. The agent from Brenda's notes, a real estate badge clipped to his pocket. So, they weren't subtle anymore. I sat at the table in the private family room, purse resting neatly beside me, a cup of chamomile steaming on the tray. I didn't stand. They should know I don't rise for disrespect. Mom, Marcus said in that practiced corporate empathy tone. We're here to help you transition comfortably. I smiled. Into what? Let them define their cruelty. Evan swallowed. We found a buyer for the house. You won't need it anymore. He placed paperwork on the table like a child offering homework. We'll move your things here and... No, I interrupted. You'll finish your sentence. It's polite. He blinked, confused that I wasn't crying. I always used to cry when they raised their voices. Funny how silence scares louder. The agent stepped forward. Mrs. Carter, the property market is... You can be quiet now, I said without looking at him. He froze. Smart man. Wrong side. Marcus exhaled sharply. Mom, we're trying to simplify your life. You don't need a house that big. You needed it, I corrected. You always needed it. The guest rooms, the pool, the kitchen you pretended to help in. His jaw tensed. Ego hates mirrors. We spoke to the administrator, Evan added. He mentioned some concerns about memory issues. I picked up my tea like his words weighed nothing. Really? Did he forget which of us has an actual career? Marcus leaned forward. We want guardianship. You can't be responsible for legal and financial decisions anymore. I nodded once. So this is an attempted takeover, not a visit. Mom. Evan softened his tone. It's love. I set the cup down deliberately. Love signs, power of attorney papers now. My, how romance has evolved. Their eyes flicked to each other. The first crack. I opened my purse and pulled out 2 stacks of paper. Let's trade stories, I said. Yours first. Marcus slid a document across. Petition for emergency guardianship filed yesterday. They thought speed would trap me. It only hurried their failure. My turn, I said lightly. I handed them the updated trust. Signed. Irrevocable. No child of mine could touch $1 without my consent. You changed it? Evan's voice cracked. Disbelief or fear? Both sounded similar. Yes, I said. The moment your wife confused slander with handwriting practice. Marcus scanned the pages, face draining color like a storm pulling tide. And this, I added, placing the physician's cognitive assessment in front of him. I passed every test they could invent, so if you want to claim I'm incompetent, I'll take the stand and recite your childhood medical records from memory, starting with who wet the bed longest. Evan flinched. Truth is the sweetest humiliation. The agent shifted uncomfortably, closing his folder halfway. Good. Let him see he wandered into a war zone wearing a name tag. And this, I said, sliding the final sheet across the table, the lock hardware receipt. Evan closed his eyes. Marcus clenched his fist. You bought new locks for my house the week you dumped me here, I said quietly. Not to protect me, to keep me out. No one spoke. I let the silence bloom until guilt smelled like sweat. Why? I asked finally. Marcus found the courage to lie first. We were worried. You were embarrassed, I corrected. You didn't want me reminding people where you came from. Evan's voice cracked. Mom, please. No, I said, calm as winter. You traded me for convenience. You tried to erase the woman who built the life you parade. The agent cleared his throat sheepishly. This seems like I'm not speaking to you, I said, eyes still on my son's. But you should leave. He didn't argue. He left quickly. The smart exit of a man who recognized ownership when he saw it. Marcus rubbed his temples. We made mistakes. Fine. But the house stays with me, I cut in. Everything stays with me. You don't even live there, he snapped. But it's mine, I replied. And losing something you believe you're entitled to is exactly the lesson you need. Evan reached out, voice trembling. We can fix this. Is this revenge? No, I said, leaning back with a soft smile. This is accountability. If I wanted revenge, I'd let the world see who you became when you thought no one was watching. Marcus breathed hard. Anger is a child that hates being told it's misbehaving. Mom, he said through teeth. We are your family. I straightened my back and answered in the voice of a woman who has finally found her peace. Family does not abandon. Family does not erase. Family does not bury you alive and call it love. Their faces changed, realization dawning like light across a battlefield. I wasn't fighting them. I was winning. I stood, purse on my shoulder, completely self-assured. You should go now, I said. We'll reconvene when you find humility. They didn't move, so I offered the final blow. Soft, precise. Until then, you get nothing. Marcus opened his mouth, desperate to reclaim control. but the administrator appeared in the doorway behind them, holding a folder nervously. "Mrs. Carter," he said, "your guest's visitation privileges must now be scheduled in advance, at your discretion." Their eyes whipped toward him. Mine didn't. I already knew this moment belonged to me. I gave them one last sentence, a truth that locked the door they tried to shut on me. "You thought this home was my ending, but it's your beginning." Then I walked out, leaving them behind, like they once left me. They didn't leave quietly. Children who lose leverage forget how to walk straight. I returned to my room with a calm stride, the kind that doesn't ask for permission. Behind me, I heard Marcus raising his voice at Mr. Sanders, demanding reversals, explanations, anything that would resurrect their power. But the administrator had already learned the new order of authority in this building. He did not meet Marcus's anger. He simply pointed toward the exit and said, "Mrs. Carter controls all visits. Please respect her rules." Doors only slam when someone feels trapped. I heard the echo down the hallway and allowed myself a small breath of satisfaction. Victory rarely arrives loud, but the defeated certainly do. Later that evening, my phone buzzed with messages. "Marcus, we need to talk." "Evan, we weren't trying to hurt you." A third message, the real one. "Marcus, the buyer is threatening legal action if we don't deliver the house on time." Truth always slips in when fear does. I typed back one line. "Not my problem anymore." I didn't add a period. Periods end conversations. This one was just beginning. Connor stopped by on his rounds, eyes curious. "And how did the family meeting go?" he asked. I glanced at the closed blinds, the quiet hum of victory settling into the air. "They finally understood my language," I said. He grinned. "And you didn't even raise your voice." "No need," I answered. People who expect a broken woman panic when she doesn't break. He nodded like he'd known that lesson firsthand, but the night wasn't done with me yet. At 9:17 p.m., the facility phone rang for me. Sanders answered, then knocked on my door. "Your son wants to speak with you," he said, handing over the receiver as though it were heavier than it looked. Marcus didn't wait for greeting. His words came fast. "Mom, please, we'll stop. Just help us fix this." "You already fixed it," I replied. "You fixed my future the day you abandoned me." "This isn't you talking," he said quickly. "They've turned you against us." "They didn't need to," I answered. "You did it all on your own." He took a breath that sounded like a man drowning in shallow water. "We can't lose that house. Our lives are tied to it." "And mine was supposed to end there?" I asked. "Nicely boxed away while you picked out curtains?" Silence, the kind that means realization is setting in like frost. "We made a mistake," he whispered. "We thought you'd be safer here." "No," I said. "You thought I'd be quieter here." Evan got on the line next, voice shaking. "We love you, Mom." "Love that abandons isn't love," I replied. "It's convenience with a greeting card." He cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to confess regret. Regret is not redemption. It's simply a mirror showing too late what should have been obvious. "Let us come tomorrow," he pleaded. "We'll apologize properly." "You can come," I agreed smoothly, "but understand something." I let a slow silence emphasize the shift in power. "You no longer own access to me. You earn it." He swallowed hard. "What do we need to do?" "Learn patience," I said. "We'll speak when I'm ready." I hung up first, a gesture small as a pin but sharp enough to deflate an ego. I stood at the window, looking at the parking lot lights flickering across empty spaces. They thought they pushed me into a corner, but corners are where lions crouch before they spring. That night, I didn't dream. Dreams are for people hoping the world improves by morning. I rested like someone who had already changed her world. And tomorrow? Tomorrow they would return with apologies. And I would decide if forgiveness was even on the table. But justice? Justice was already served. I woke early the next day, not because of age or habit, but because victory has a way of pulling you out of bed with purpose. The nursing home corridors were still quiet, residents asleep or pretending to be. I dressed in the nicest outfit I brought. Navy blouse, pearl earrings. Power doesn't need gowns, it needs posture. Connor noticed immediately. "Special day?" he asked. "Accountability day," I said. He smiled like he wanted front row seats. By noon, a buzz moved through the halls, whispers that her sons are coming back. A young aide peeked into my room. "Do you want us to reserve the family suite again?" she asked politely. "No," I said. "We'll meet in the courtyard. Fresh air is good for clarity." They arrived just after 1. Their footsteps were slower this time. Shame weighs more than arrogance does. They each held flowers. The cheap kind gas stations keep refrigerated next to energy drinks. I let them sit across from me at the metal garden table while a few residents lingered nearby, pretending to read, pretending not to listen. Good. Justice deserves an audience. Marcus spoke first, rehearsed humility, sharpening every word. "Mom, we're sorry. We forgot what matters." "You remembered what mattered," I corrected. "You just thought it wasn't me." He stopped breathing for a moment. Evan cleared his throat. "We'll cancel the guardianship petition. You can come home whenever you want." "I'm home," I replied. They looked at each other, startled. "But this isn't—" "It is now," I cut in. "You made sure of that." Marcus clenched his fists, knuckles whitening. "Then what do you want?" The real question. Finally. I laid my phone gently on the table. Screen unlocked. Photos displayed. Images taken from the HOA president's messages. The realtor near my driveway, the locksmith van in front of my home, the agent standing beside them both, then the receipt, then the visitation log, then their guardianship files, proof lined up like dominoes. "You tried to erase my independence," I said, "so now you have to earn access to my inheritance." Evan whispered, "What does that mean?" "It means," I said evenly, "I'm rewriting the will." Their faces fell like ruined buildings. "You'll still be included," I continued, "but not as sons, as beneficiaries with conditions." "What conditions?" Marcus asked, terror hiding inside calm. "I choose when and how you see me. I choose if and when you set foot in my home again, and I choose what portion of my assets you actually deserve. You do not get to schedule my life anymore. You no longer own my presence. I own yours." A soft gasp came from a nearby table. Grown children weren't used to such roles reversed. "You can start by visiting every week," I said. "Not out of duty, out of respect. If you miss a week, the percentage drops." Marcus's voice cracked. "Mom, this is punishment." "No," I said. "This is balance." He leaned back, staring at the sky as if expecting a divine intervention. But God doesn't bail out cowards who abandon their mothers. Evan wiped his face, the apology real now. "We thought we were helping." "Then learn how to care without controlling," I said. "Learn how to love without ownership." They nodded. Small, defeated motions. Because sometimes the greatest lesson is the one you never saw coming. To seal the moment, I took a photo of them sitting across from me, confused, humbled, listening. "For the record," I said, "memories are useful." Before they could respond, a voice called out from behind, "Mrs. Carter, excuse me, is this a good time?" Elaine and Dr. Chen approached, both dressed elegantly, both smiling at me like I deserved congratulations. Perfect timing. Marcus stood quickly, trying to reclaim dignity. "Who are they?" "My witnesses," I said. "People who actually show up." The two men looked smaller beside these polished pillars of respect, and they knew it. Public humiliation works best when there's someone around to admire the justice. Elaine set her delicate hand on my shoulder. "Are the boys treating you well, May?" I didn't look at them when I answered. "They're learning." Everyone at the surrounding tables nodded silently. They knew this feeling. Abandonment wearing a family name. I stood, collecting my purse. "Thank you for the flowers," I said to my sons. "You can bring nicer ones next week." Then I walked toward the lobby, leaving them sitting at the courtyard table, one bouquet drooping sideways in the heat. For the first time since they were children, they watched me leave and couldn't follow. That is justice. Quiet, public, absolute. Life settled into a rhythm. But this time, it was my rhythm. Every Thursday at 2, my sons arrived. No more rushing through the lobby with excuses in their pockets. They came dressed properly, hair combed, manners polished. Because respect, once demanded, changes posture. Week by week, I watched their arrogance peel away. My absence had finally become their lesson. The nursing home didn't feel like exile anymore. It became neutral ground, a place where I held the pen and they waited for the lines I wrote. Gloria teased me often. "Queen May accepting tributes again," she'd say. "Make them bring chocolates next." I laughed with her, genuine laughter, the kind that doesn't ache afterward. Connor brought me chamomile tea every evening now, without being asked. "You run this place," he joked once. "I'm just here for the scenery." I told him scenery should never underestimate its influence. At night, I sat by the window watching the courtyard lights flicker. Not trapped, not forgotten, just free. One evening, Evan stayed after Marcus left. He sat quietly on the bench, hands intertwined like he was afraid they'd betray him again if he let go. "Mom," he said finally, "do you hate us?" I didn't answer right away. Hatred is easy. Understanding is harder. "I don't hate you," I said. "Hate is attention. I just don't owe you anything anymore." His eyes glistened. He nodded, accepting what he earned. Growth comes from discomfort. And he was finally growing. Later, I walked back to my room and placed my teacup on the desk, fingers brushing its smooth ceramic surface. Chamomile. Just like I asked the first day I arrived, it tasted like warm resolve. Some evenings the wind carried echoes from the front entrance. Residents begging to go home, families promising they'd visit soon, promises too light for the weight they pretend to carry. But I no longer waited for promises. I created terms. I protected boundaries. I became the version of myself they never thought I'd need to be. The nursing home hadn't stolen my life. It had given me clarity, the kind that arrives when the noise finally stops. I wasn't counting days anymore. I was measuring respect. And now I had enough to fill the rest of my life comfortably. 5 years later, I sit in the same courtyard where everything changed. The bench is the same, the wind a little cooler, the air a little kinder. My teacup warms my palms. Chamomile. Always chamomile. And the birds finally know this feeder won't go empty. A car pulls up to the entrance every Thursday at 2. Not to drop me off, to pick me up. Marcus and Evan arrive early now, waiting in the exact seats where they once tried to take my life away from me. They bring fresh flowers, not gas station leftovers. They carry humility on their shoulders, and it looks better on them than pride ever did. We drive to my house, still mine, always mine. We eat dinner at the same table where I once sat praying they'd visit more. Now, I watch them cook, argue over salt, laugh like they remember who raised them. They learned. It took losing everything they assumed they owned, but they learned. Here's the truth I never said aloud until now. I didn't fight my sons because I needed revenge. I fought them because they needed redemption. Respect wasn't built by punishment. It was built by the boundaries that saved us all. Sometimes being left behind is the fastest way to get ahead. Sometimes exile is the beginning of empire, and sometimes being dumped in a nursing home is the moment you finally take the throne. I take another sip of tea, slow and satisfied. A mother doesn't always choose the war, but she always chooses the ending. If you've ever been underestimated, forgotten, or thrown away. This story is for you. What would you have done in my place? Tell me in the comments, and if someone has ever tried to control your life, share this video so they know exactly who they're dealing with. Share your story below. Your voice might help someone heal too. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful stories. And tell me in the comments where in the world you are listening from. I love to know how far these stories travel.